G'day ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on this, my journey into the constraints-led approach for BJJ. My name is Sam Battlefields, and today we had an awesome class. I was meant to record it, took my video camera and everything, and then left it in my bag. That's okay though, because it turned out to be a really good class. Now, part of this, I actually felt like I was on point mentally, and for the past week and a half, maybe I was using a pre-workout before I went in. I was only using a half scoop, but I just felt like something was messing with my head, and I have a bit of a history with certain, let's call them substances, and although I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination these pre-workouts had anything to do with that, at times during the class I felt like I was mentally overwhelmed, even though I wasn't mentally overwhelmed, if that makes sense. Probably doesn't. So this week I just returned to having my greens and electrolytes in the morning, and hopefully that's why I'm feeling good again. As you know, I've been working on like a little software project, and this software project really made me think about the session intentions for each session, and man, I think I've come across something awesome. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Hannah Gracie's Gracie University. However, the 32 Principles of Jiu-Jitsu, which is one of his books, awesome for session intentions, as is evident by today's class. I broke down each modality with its own session intention, as that is how the 32 principles are broken up. We started with the standing portion, and the session intention for this was base and kazushi, and being that it was standing, we started from our knees. Seriously though, I'm going to build off this. So what I wanted people to see and feel was the ability to off-balance someone using their torso. I explained briefly what kazushi is. In that, I made a joke about a friend who had once said they wanted to have a shirt that said, "How's my kazushi?" Obviously, so the person would read it like that. It's pretty funny. And if it hasn't been done yet, I'm claiming it copyright. Anyway, the goal was to be in an over-under position, but at the side. So essentially have a really deep underhook and be collecting the other arm. The goal was to put them on their shoulder, whereas the goal for the person has the overhook, their goal was to try and square up. This was a very easy game for the person who had the underhook, because all they had to do was put the person on that shoulder. And it was really cool to see that there was certain posts happening where an angled shift or an angle change was happening as well that would then put them on their ass. I was really stoked with this game, and I think there's going to be some extras to it as we move along, but I'm really keen to work on these 32 principles within the constraints-led approach framework. So with guard, the session intention was posture break. Now, funnily enough, this was actually something that was already in my curriculum as such. However, it was really cool to see that posture was a big part of the 32 principles for the guard section. The goal for the person on the bottom was to get and keep the person's head on their chest for as long as possible. If they kept it there for more than 3 to 5 seconds, then they were to ease it off slightly in order to allow the person to build back up some posture, and then they were to go again and break down. The person on the top, their goal was just to pin one of their knees to the ground. Again, this was an awesome game, and we actually played quite a bit in this position with 2-minute rounds, swap roll, 2-minute round, swap partners, 2-minute round, swap roll, 2-minute round. I do think I should have done that 2-minute round for the focus of the session, which was side control, but my phone was dying and I didn't realize till the last minute. I am going to be going back through the time boxing video that Ecological Dynamics for Submission Grappling channel has posted recently to try and get some ideas as to how to properly time box my sessions. From there, we moved on to side control, and the session intention for this was flow and isolation of a limb. The person on the bottom, their goal was to escape to turtle. The person on the top, their goal was to isolate a limb, but they weren't allowed to stay in any one position for more than 3 seconds. This game was fucking awesome. The emergent behavior was that people would attach the limb to their body and then start moving. This is something that I've been trying to talk about for years, and it wasn't happening until just today with this game. Essentially, they were grabbing a limb, holding it to them, and then just moving around until that limb was isolated. I've got a really good idea for a second game and a follow-up game tomorrow, which will be flow and pressure and isolation. We'll get there though. As I said, really good session. All the guys were rolling really, really well today. Jaden, he's been off for 2 weeks. He was rolling strong. I was fucking surprised. He had put me in some serious situations where I was actually in a bit of trouble. And when I thought that I could just mosey on out, he stopped me and really put the pressure on. I was very impressed with him this morning. Same with Will. Will noticed that I did this one particular sweep on him fairly easily, and he actually baited me. Looking back, I can see it now, but he dropped his knee in so that I would do the same same thing, and he used my own momentum against me and got back on top. It was really, really fucking cool. And Ridwan grabbed my arm when I was in a seated open guard, grabbed my arm, pulled it across my chest, and then shifted me upwards like this and yelled at the same time, Kazushi! Smart ass. Ra mentioned to me afterwards that I was making some very, very, what's the word, appreciative? Applauding sounds is probably the best way to describe it with everyone that I rolled with this morning. I'm going to get a whole heap more data on this 32 principles and how it relates to my curriculum. If you'd like to know more, go to battlefieldsgrappling.com.au and fill in the form. Everyone else, like, comment, subscribe.